welcome in to another Chi Time, your conscious living show with me, Clara Apollo, here on UK Health Radio. Now, I'm here to open the Chi conversations. I'm really fascinated with energy and, your personal energy and how you make that work for you in the world. And so I have wonderful conversations. I'm lucky enough to share wonderful conversations with some of the leading luminaries in the world of self-awareness and conscious development in the world, and asking them how they manage their energy and what tools and tips they might have for us so that we can manage ours. And one of the things that I've really noticed is how much the sisterhoods are starting to come together here, and I want to ask her about this. So she is a best-selling Hay House author. Her first book, Light is the New Black, really sort of took us all by surprise, absolutely wonderfully. And it was then that I first was introduced to her through conscious living events down in the New Forest, where she came and did a talk, and her light was shining for all of us to experience, but also be ignited by. She really is a complete blessing, and I'm totally honoured and thrilled and slightly excited that she's back here on Chi Time with us. So let's introduce or reintroduce and welcome dear Rebecca Campbell to Chi Time.
You too.
Welcome indeed, lovely. How are you doing?
I'm great. So nice to be with you again, Clara.
I know. I thank you so much over the years, what you've shared with us. And I'd really like to ask you, firstly, since you've really been at the spearhead of the rising sisterhood, what you've noticed since you released that book and the work that you've been doing since about how sisters are really coming together now. Yeah.
What I've experienced, and it's both within myself and I think witnessing at different events and in different communities, is how surprised everyone is at how much we've all been yearning for a safe place for women to come together, and really realizing how we have felt isolated. I know I had in previous parts of my life, and even still, to really find the courage to open your heart front and back and trust that you can be held and supported generally by life, but then also with other women. Yeah, I think what I've noticed is a lot of people are very surprised at how much they've yearned for that.
Yeah, and how much that's part of us. And this trust that we're building now, it's so strong and it's so real. And as you're saying, it's so needed. We've been yearning for this. Our sisterhood is part of our birthright as women. And to feel that you're supported, where in a place where you're completely accepted for who you are and whatever mood you're in that day, whatever funk you're going through.
Yeah, exactly. I think many of us, this is definitely me, we try and hold it together. We try and be in full bloom all year round. And for me, it was really beginning to work with Mother Earth, the seasons, and also my monthly cycle. The reason I was drawn to that work was because I really needed it myself. I had a successful career and really relied on my, I guess in a way it was like my masculine strength. Not that there's anything wrong with that. That's half of who I am, and that's great. But I'd really kind of pushed away my feminine power, my innate wisdom, really, in order to kind of make it in a man's world. And no one made me do that. I did it myself. And it served me for a long time until it totally burnt me out.
This is interesting. So do you think that really strong yang aspect of us women, that we do it too much, that's what burns us out? Because the yang is the rising energy, isn't it? And it's got that.
Yeah, that's it. And I think it's interesting, when we're talking about the masculine and feminine, we obviously know that men and women have both within us. And I think whether we're men or women, as women or people who resonate with being a woman, with that label, we've probably chosen to, and this again is not all of us, but many of us, and I know it's me, I've chosen to explore being in a feminine body at soul level, right? So I think even more with me, when I rely on my pushing on through and all of that, then I'm really denying that other part of me. And, you know, I grew up with, my parents have just literally, they left this morning from, I'm here in London, they're from Australia at 5 a.m. this morning to get on their flight. And I've got and I wonder if anyone listening to us or watching with us feels the same. But like for me, I had like quite a role reversal growing up, where my mum was like, you know, Joan of Arc kind of career woman, and working the long hours and pushing through and all of that. And my dad was a school teacher, and he was the caretaker. He did the washing and the cleaning and the taking, cooking dinner and all of that kind of stuff. And so I had an interesting, like, stereotypical reverse. And so I see how in my career I really went into my masculine, and a lot of my definitely early 20s I was like completely in my masculine, which wasn't to say I was like a man, but I just relied on that drive, you know. And it wasn't until, for me, what really drew me to the work of the feminine, and it wasn't a conscious decision to, I like, it's not the path where I thought I would be. Yes, the soul, always the soul, but the rise of the feminine soul, that was not a conscious thing, which I think is often when we're being called to a certain body of work, right?
Yeah.
And for me, the thing that called me towards it was I suffered from really, really bad period pain. And so it was through like working with the cycles, and I always had a deep connection with nature, but I went deeper in working with the seasons that I realized, okay, so when I've been pushing myself so hard, I've been trying to be in full bloom constantly. So if we look at nature, it's like being in spring and summer, which come very easily to me, whereas autumn or fall, if there's any Americans, and winter, that was harder for me. Perhaps as well, being from Australia, it is more of that yang energy. Maybe that's it. Who knows? It's there are so many layers within all of this, but yeah, it was really working with the seasons that allowed me to kind of work in a more subtle yet powerful way with the masculine and feminine.
Oh, it's beautiful. So it's not just about yin and yang, is it? It's about all the colors of the seasons within that rise and fall, because that's all yin and yang is. It's a rising and a falling, or a releasing and a receiving. And we were just talking about, you know, when you're in sisterhood, when you're with your team, and something that we were just speaking about off air was that I was being honest about feeling quite isolated in what I'm doing at the moment, and having to sort of hold things together a lot. And yet nature is my go-to, but so is that kind nature of my friends. I mean, you know, you do reach out or whatever, but how do you suggest that we can manage this when we're developing, when we're evolving, and when we're really trying to be our true and being kind to ourselves? How do we then get the support for that? You know, who do we reach out to?
That's a really big question. And first of all, I just want to acknowledge that I think many of us can feel isolated, particularly when we're growing, and particularly when we're changing and evolving over time. Because if we're truly living with the seasons, well, and you and I right now are in autumn, right? So it makes sense to feel like things are falling away, and it's like, but what's coming to take its place? What's coming to and that is why living in like being led by, I would call it living a soul-led life, which, you know, you could say it's living in balance with all of life, right? There's being led by the Shakti of life. It takes courage, because no one wants to let things fall away. Who wants to do that? I don't know many people who do, you know, because it takes courage and faith to trust that something new come spring will begin to bloom again, right? You know, I had something because receiving support has definitely been a big challenge for me. Now, I am very supported in my life, but I haven't always felt that way. So it's not even a matter of what's real or what's not. It's based on what feels true, right? And so in my experience, yeah, there was definitely like a lack of trust of that support. And I think that is why, particularly in my 20s, I was in like trying to consciously create my life, consciously trying to make things happen, relying on my personal will rather than trusting on, you know, to me, going from my will to thy will is really surrendering to the cyclic flow of life, right? We could say it's like, oh, I'm here to be a service and please God use me. Really, all we're doing is saying, I will let go of my own personal control, right? And maybe the purpose will be to teach and whatever, or maybe it'll be to sing, or maybe it will be to sing in your kitchen when you're cooking. Like, it's not up to us to know what that external outcome is. But yeah, I had always struggled with the support thing, and I think that is what for me personally kept me in my masculine. And even like with I have such a beautiful husband, but yeah, I'd feel unsupported, and that there was no reality to that, but I might have felt it. And it was actually when I finally really worked on receiving support, and mainly by giving it to myself rather than expecting someone else to give it to me, and really being in my feminine, that actually the level of support that he physically gave ended up increasing. And the same thing happened with the other relationships in my life. So it had nothing to do with them and all to do with my trust in receiving it, but first giving it to myself, which I know is cliched. But even now, just recently, my husband has, and we did not expect this to happen at the time that it did, but he's now joined my company as like a pillar of support in the company. And I really put that down to like I've done so much work on the support thing. So I basically, all this to say, I totally get it. And what I've discovered, and I hate saying this because it would make me frustrated when I heard it then, but it was really giving it to myself first.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and it's been something that I've worked on myself a lot, and I do radical trust, and I know this, but I wobble. And you kind of wobble. You think, what am I doing wrong? It's like, no, look at the abundance all around. That's the first place that I look at. Look, and also look where you were maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and compared to where you are now. Actually,
so true.
Acknowledge you're evolving and what you've already got without realizing it. I think there's just a lot of overwhelm. I've actually got a question here from lovely Michelle Grattan, who is I put it out, said I was going to chat with you today. And she said that she's doing all the things to up level and grow, and then exhaustion creeps in. What to do? And it is that. How do we help ourselves?
So to properly rest, and again, I know this is a challenging one. I feel like you're asking me all the things that I struggle with myself today. Thank you, Autumn.
Making it real.
Yeah, particularly like I'm feeling like Michelle is probably like an entrepreneur, or is she doing this kind of work? Yeah. And when we're in a state of growth, and particularly in the digital world, it's like, there is so much potential, and we got to go back to that thing of like, we cannot be in full bloom constantly, and because the further we kind of get, and whatever that means, like say it's like, okay, and the followers are increasing, or the creative projects or the event offers or whatever, there's no end destination. And so you get into this thing of overwhelm where it's like, well, where do I draw the line? And for example, if you're a creative, I know for me, I need open space to create, which is very different from a deadline of, oh, by the end of today, I have to have this done. It's very different. I'm way more productive if I have 4 hours where I literally don't have to do anything versus 8 hours of this is what you need to do, I will always be more productive in those 4 hours. And so when you're an artist, particularly, it's this balance. And particularly if you're an entrepreneur as well, there's the two parts of us, right? So what has helped me is to realize that, and this is for anyone who is running their own business, first of all, we wear so many hats and we have so many roles. So there's the creator, or you might call it, in my company, we call it the chief artist. And then there is it could be the shareholder or the CEO or the business manager or the admin assistant or the customer service. Like there's so many. And as you grow, as the business grows, of course, you can be blessed to be able to actually have support, as in people who are part of the team. And then there's another role for you of managing those people. So there's so many hats that we're constantly wearing, particularly in the online world when we're entrepreneurs, that is the changing of the hats is exhausting as in itself. And what I've come to realize is that I need the chief artist. That's the most important role to be healthy and happy. And so it's asking each of those individual roles, which may be the same person if you're a solopreneur, but each of those people need to be happy and happy to show up to work in order for you not to be depleted and exhausted. I think in the online world, there's so much pressure to catch up and be constantly at a certain rate, and we don't switch off, and it's so important. There's so many entrepreneurs I know who have like autoimmune diseases, chronic fatigue, and it's because we're constantly on. And again, it's definitely something that I have I'm navigating as well, particularly when you're passionate about what you do, just knowing, okay, well, I'll just do one more project, I'll do one more book, I'll do one more event, I'll do one more blog post. Oh, I haven't sent the email out today. And then the whole life disappears. So it is something that I think is very challenging to navigate. My friend Robert Holden and I spoke about this recently, and we spoke about that concept of like the artist or the writer, or versus the one who's answering the emails and all of that. And what we do a similar thing where our creative time is generally in the mornings. And so it's like, that's when the artist shows up to work, and it's with no pressure. Then in the afternoon, it's like, right, let's go, let's get into action. And some people say that the morning is yang energy and the afternoon is the feminine energy. Maybe that is true. And maybe that, I think doing that shift for me actually almost feels like I'm prioritizing the creativity and then following it up with the emails. But yeah, I think for all of us, it's us navigating how we can have our business serve us rather than it just like taking from us constantly,
which is key. Have our business serve us, because when you are in service, you just get drawn into it. You say just another email.
The tap is just constantly on. And then we get depleted.
So it's just being able to listen to where your energy really is. What is best for me first? Because if I don't make the right choice for me, I'm actually not going to be giving the best service.
It's true. And then you'll end up resentful.
Yeah.
So anytime there's resentment, often it's because we've given something away that we're not willing to, if we really tuned into it, which is good information. Good information,
exactly. We've given away from an empty.
And it's not because we've done something wrong. It's just like, oh, okay, so this is really good information to help me work out where the boundary is for my needs, like what I need. So then the next time you do it, you're like, okay, so, and because I think what my husband has really taught me, and this is for anyone who I think anyone who runs their own business takes things personally, but particularly, you know, where it's like with your business, Clara, it's like it's your name and it's your reputation and it's you same, and maybe was it Michelle who wrote in, perhaps she is the same, to realize that it's like you work for your business. So if you're even if you are the boss and you are the assistant and you're every single role in it, each of those roles needs to show up to work. And what I've noticed about myself is that, you know, I used to think that when I was in the corporate world, that it was like the corporate world that made me the hard worker. That I was like, oh, it's such a demanding industry, blah, blah, blah. Hell no, it was me all along. Like, I'm gonna change, and then blah, 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 my passion, and amazing, great. But when it came to actually running the business, the way the business was run was based on the way I would run things. And when you actually, and that I found that when I was in control, actually it got worse than when I was in the corporate world at the beginning, because I just pushed through, because add the element of service, and it was like I was like, oh my gosh, I'm definitely showing up no matter what, you know. So I feel that what my husband reminds me of constantly is that it's like, okay, so there's the business and then there's the person, and you're showing up to work for the business. And so, like, if you wouldn't show up and work for someone like a different company, why are you showing up and working for your own? Does that make sense? So it's like, I was talking to an entrepreneur friend the other day, and she was like, oh my gosh, I would hate to work for me. And she does work for her.
That is such a good question to ask yourself. Do you enjoy working for me or not? And then what I was getting from like all these different hats that we have to wear, because our energy gets dissipated, doesn't it, when we have so many jobs to do, or perhaps we're bringing up children even. I know that Michelle's got some little ones that she's bringing up too, that you've got that responsibility as a mum, and you've got the responsibility to your work and your self-development. And it's when do you get that time? And it's about being clear with your boundaries and the space, giving yourself space, or carving out, crafting space. And maybe it is early in the morning before everybody gets up, and that's something that I've learned to bring into my life after you used to be like a long sleeper. And now I don't need so much. I can get up at dawn, and this is completely new for me, Rebecca. I like,
that's amazing.
Yeah, but it's
that's amazing.
That calm time, because I thought calmness was only at the end of the day, but oh no,
that's interesting. That's great.
Get in there. Anyway, one of the things that helps me when I do get into a bit of a funk and I'm kind of got about 63 things going on, and I'm like, whoa, I need to breathe. I'll go and pick up my Work Your Like Oracle deck, and I would like us to pick a card for our listeners and viewers.
Great.
Have you got yours with you as well?
Yeah, let me grab my deck.
Yeah. And let's do one each. And
okay.
Message comes through from the both of us for our lovelies out there, because these are so beautiful. Oh, and I keep trying to avoid the one that says yes, because I tend to find that I say yes too much and it gets me into a lot of trouble. So I haven't quite removed it from the pack yet, but you know, it did come through this morning. It reminded me that sometimes maybe you should have a no one in there as well as a yes.
There is a no one.
I haven't picked it yet, have I? Okay, should we do the same time? All right.
Yeah, I've already picked mine.
You have. Oh.
Oh,
you've got the Gathering.
No, I got the protection. They're quite similar cards. Yeah. So Crumbling, you're one.
So Autumn. This is the Autumn one, then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really letting go of what you don't.
Yeah. So your card is really, it's total autumn, and it's So the soul inquiry for that is, what are you clinging on to? Which is all about releasing for autumn. So us here in the Northern Hemisphere. It's also that card based on the Tower card in the tarot deck, which, gosh, I remember must have been like 2010. I picked that like every single day because I was like trying to cling on, that's for sure. And the thing about the Tower card and the crumbling is that, like, if you look at that card, it's like it looks a bit scary from the outside, but if you look behind, it's beautiful. It looks like Oz, right? Like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. It's like so beautiful. And the thing about that card is that it's about things are falling away regardless of whether or not you want them to. So, but it doesn't have to be big, bad, and scary, because if you look behind, it's like it's just, you know, we're going autumn, spring, summer. It's beautiful.
And also, you need to let go to create space for the new to come through.
Yeah.
Otherwise, your full cup was not going to let anything else in, is it?
Exactly. And I think that's so relevant to what we were talking about, of like, you know, feeling exhausted and so many things to do and so many emails and so many projects and blah, 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 blah. But like properly giving, like if you properly give yourself a winter, and I mean that metaphorically as well as literally, then the seeds of spring can bloom again, you know?
Absolutely. And inside the whole Chinese medicine paradigm, going into the winter time of conserving your energy and being in your still waters, it's like absolutely fundamental for exactly that. Whereas getting your resource to then be ready for the spring, and it's trusting the seasons within us, and then wherever we're living, we can tune into that on a daily basis, can't we?
Totally.
Reflected outside. Anyway, over to yours then. You've got the
right. So this is the protection card, which is quite a clear card, particularly like visually, if you can see. So, and you know, I don't see this so much as it's not as much like it's a little bit of boundaries, but it's all about calling back your power. So it's about the fire, you know, but like the strength, it's real strength. It's like the strength of all the elements, cut the cords, soul retrieval. So I'm going to actually read from the book, because I love, there's an activation on this, and I thought maybe we could do it together. So it says, you're being called to protect your energy and call back your power. May all lost pieces return home now. Take a look at who or what drains your energy. That's what we were talking about before. Don't keep all of your tabs open. Shut down energetically each night. So it's like really boundaries for anyone who runs an online business, particularly. Energetic cords are formed between people, places, objects, and events. So it's important to keep checking in. So really keep checking in and scanning. Your energy and energetic space is sacred, so treat them as such. Keeping your energy clear takes work. As we go through life, we can give away our power. So it's important that we call it back by cutting energetic cords or doing a form of healing known as soul retrieval. Can you think of a traumatic event, relationship, or soul memory that you're being called to call back your power from? So it's really like, check into your body, and we can do this now. Check into your body now and see which part of your body, if there's any part, or maybe if you connect with the chakras, like which chakra that feels like it needs a bit of energetic clear up. So it might feel a little bit like stuck or fuzzy or sharp, but just notice which part of your body. Close your eyes and breathe in. And trust where your energy is being called to, and focus on that part of your body. And so how we'll do this, Clara, is I'll say it, and if you repeat after me, and anyone listening can say it along with you, okay?
Okay.
So if you put your hand on the chakra or area of your body that feels like you want to call back a piece of it now, and keep your eyes closed and breathe and feel the ground beneath you. Feel the energy that you're being held in around you by me and from the heavens above too. And repeat after me. I call back any
I call back any
lost soul fragments,
lost soul fragments,
power or light now.
power or light now.
Any vows, soul contracts,
Any vows, soul contracts,
hexes or programs from the past
hexes or programs from the past
or present, from this life or others,
from this life or others,
that are not in the highest good of all,
that are not in the highest good of all,
I relinquish now.
I relinquish now.
Any power or light
Any power or light
that I've willingly or unwillingly
that I have willingly or unwillingly
given away or had taken from me,
given away or had taken from me,
I call back now.
I call back now.
Any cords or attachments
Any cords or attachments
from this life or others,
from this life or others,
I release now for the highest good of all.
I release now for the highest good of all.
And so it is, and so it is, and so it is.
And so it is, and so it is, and so it is.
Deep breath in.
Wow.
And just
That's
when you're
big.
ready. Yeah.
I needed that. I'm going to do that again.
Well, yeah, protection card. It's a really clear, strong one.
Yeah, it's not just about, like, we had that idea of protection, of protecting yourself against. Actually, one of the questions I was going to ask was that when you become more sensitive to things, how do you manage the difficulties in the outside world, you know, as well as the beauty? And yet when you come into that presence of being, that this is sort of encouraging you to call back your power, that in itself is your protection.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think the more highly sensitive we are, the more grounded we need to be.
Yes. Yeah.
And maybe the more it takes to ground. Right?
Yes. So daily practice, when you can get outside, or even if the weather's bad, just looking outside or being with plants or being with the intention.
Exactly. And then also like I find also, I know that many of us who are really sensitive and maybe are drawn to having big conversations and being constantly in the spiritual, I find just having friends who don't talk spiritual really grounding.
Oh, that's great. I know it's the yin and the yang of the seasons again, isn't it? And we need to not get stuck in one. You find that humor tends to will reach.
Yes, humor is so grounding. It's so good. Yeah, and yet the ability to laugh at oneself as well.
Yes,
and also like, and you know, this I think like comes back to that sisterhood thing of like just like voicing things to someone who knows that it's like, just because you're feeling like something one day doesn't mean it is who you are, you know, and just being able to voice to a girlfriend or whoever of just like, oh, this is how I'm feeling right now. I know it's not real, but this is it. I'm just going to say it. So it's out and I'm going to let it go now.
And it's heard as well. And I was that idea of using your voice, and part of what you're doing in your workshops now is that you're bringing much more chanting through, and you've got the delightful Amy Firth coming down to the New Forest.
Oh yeah, you're going to love her. She's an interfaith faith minister and healer and many things herself. She's also a singer-songwriter, and one of my dear friends. And so she actually created, I briefed her on that I'd love to do more music, and she began hearing the whispers of the Rise Sister Rise chant, which we will play. She's got like an electric guitar.
Oh, cool.
And and I invited her recently. I had an event at Alternatives in London, and I invited her to support me there, and it was so magical. And so we were harmonizing together with the chants, and it's just because for me, chanting has been, again, such a healing journey. And I know it's the same for you, Clara, of like, I was led to chanting because I had fear around sharing my voice. And so it was very much medicine for me. But I've been very guided. I've done my bhakti training since. My teacher is Nikki Slade, amongst others, but she is just the best. And I've been very guided to use it as one of the most powerful tools in my kit during my workshops. And it is amazing the healing power chanting has when we chant with one voice. Yes. You can, the Shakti, the energy, life force can move through you. You may get tingling sometimes. You can get into a very deep meditation. And most importantly, I feel like it's like your soul's voice is heard and expressed. There also, when you chant, it works on the auric field. And so, what we're doing here with this one is like really looking at like calling lost soul pieces back. Chanting has that power too. Sometimes when people chant, tears can come or a little bit of tingling, and often it can be because it's working on like healing beyond just the physical body. So I'm excited, and I know you're a lover of chanting too. So
definitely, we've got the beautiful Illumina in the evening after you as well. So we're going to carry this on. I know it's very special times, but that power of the voice and with the heart and everyone in community. I mean, this is another part of feeling like you're part of your tribe. And
oh my gosh, singing with people, it is the most healing thing, particularly when it comes to feeling part of something.
Yes.
And if there's anyone who's like, oh my gosh, I want to do it, but I'm not a singer. I am not a singer. You're not a singer. So it's not about sounding amazing. It's about just
allowing it.
It's vocal meditation. It's about offering the voice as nectar to the soul. So, and if you allow yourself, it's a vocal meditation. It's bhakti yoga, which is devotion, right? So we're just singing our heart, really. And yeah, some real magic happens when we do that. I often find that people's voices change when they drop into the voice of the soul. The voice of the soul is actually often lower than our normal speaking voice. So, sometimes you can be like up here and there's nothing wrong with talking from the head. Like we need to do that a lot of the time. But when you drop your voice lower, sometimes it's like, oh yeah. Like when I know we do like soul inquiry when we gather as well, Clara, in these workshops. And yeah, when people are doing that exercise, at first it'll be like and then there'll be one really low, and it's like, whoa, that was true.
Oh, wow. So looking forward to this. This is the 18th of November in the New Forest.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be really
and Clara puts on the best events. We did it last year, and it was just such a beautiful space, such a beautiful group of women, and your team are exceptional as well. It's like everyone feels so held, and yeah, it's really beautiful.
Oh, bless you. Thank you for letting me be part of your team on this day. And
yes,
thank you for everything that you do to bring through more of the light and the true of you, and then that inspires it in us. Brilliant work. Thank you. And then we're going to play out with that Rise Sister Rise chant, aren't we?
Great. Yes, we are.
Sort of sing with you and Amy, and I'll be singing, but I'll be singing off mic because
me too.
So until the 18th of November, love you, leave you. Thank you so much for being part of Chi Time here again on UK Health Radio.
Thank you so much, Clara. Thanks everyone for joining in with us.
Yeah, thank you all for listening. Keep your chi up, my friends.